Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to do a little bit of training here before we shoot this Daniel Defense H9 at our next match. I've had a little bit of issues about it. We'll probably talk about it in the tabletop, but I just wanted to kind of give you some footage of me grabbing the gun as it's setting and acquiring two targets and shooting, you know, kind of quickly, just to kind of get the feel of the gun a little bit before we shoot it in the match. So I'm gonna have it setting down on this platform here. Let me kind of set up the gun to where the way I shoot it in the match. And yeah, we'll just grab the gun and shoot into these targets and see what we can do. I want to make sure the gun's functioning. We changed the iron sights for a little bit higher sights, so we're going to make sure those are not moving on me or anything like that, and just try the gun out and see how we can shoot it. Okay. All right, that's 4 shots, so that's about 8 yards, and then we got 25 yards. Just see what we can do with the gun. Miss that shot. Okay, I'm definitely going to have to slow down on my 25-yard shots, which is normal. I'm going a little bit too fast. I need to kind of slow my cadence down a little bit. I've only got 2 shots left, I think. Okay, at 7 yards, I'm having no problems hitting. I think I had 1 miss. I just shot the first shot a little too fast. The gun seems to be functioning okay. Just wanted to show you guys that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like now with the ports. Kind of see. And the iron sights. It's got raised iron sights now. All right, we'll take it to the tabletop and talk about it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I just want to do an update video, share some details while they're on my mind, and kind of go through some things about the Daniel H9 before we take it to a match. And I wanted to make this video because I'm slightly concerned that this gun may not be 100% reliable at the match. And it's partially my fault and partially how the gun's made. And we'll talk about that. I know I can fix it, and I know once it breaks in, it probably will function 100%. But I just wanted to kind of share with you these concerns. And I will say, out of the box, this gun was 100% reliable, so I'm not dishing the factory. Although, if the gun was made a little bit more, with a little more finesse, let's say, I think you would be able to tune it like I wanted to do without there being any issues. But reducing the amount of energy on the slide and having to take some of the weight off the spring because I've reduced the energy coming out the muzzle with these ports has caused the gun to show some of its, I guess, it's rough machining, because the cycling is just not as smooth without that heavy spring kind of overcoming those rough spots. You know, you see a little bit of issues. It's nothing I'm not concerned. I think I've worked out most of the issues, but there is some issues with this gun in the way it's machined. This is definitely a mass-produced, even though it's just now taken off, and I want this gun to be successful. I want Daniel to keep working on it and keep making it better and better, and see the little places where they can kind of improve upon its functionality. Because some people with a gun like this are going to want to do aftermarket stuff to it. And I also want to make a suggestion for Daniel Defense on this gun as well. I'm sure they watch some of these videos, because there's not a lot of individuals that haven't been sponsored that make videos, so they're probably looking for suggestions and thoughts. And first thing, we talked about it in one of our other videos, this mag release was sticking a little bit, and I found out the dimensions on the inside of the mag release are a little bit tight, causing some of your magazines and some of your button presses to cause the magazine to kind of hang up and not want to drop free. So that took a little bit of polishing, a little bit of adding a little bit more dimension to the internal spec of that, fixed that pretty easily. That was not a big deal, but I find a lot of guns today have those issues when you're talking about a gun that you're going to shoot in a match. The magazine dropping freely is very important. For most people that shoot and take the gun to the range and they only carry with one magazine, it's not a real big deal to them. They probably will never even notice it. But for people like me, I notice stuff like that. So slide release was a little stiff. We've worked that out. We've kind of made it to where it's a lot easier to press the button. You barely have to press it. That's normal in a lot of guns like this, production guns. Not a big deal. That's not really something Daniel needs to fix. That's something that'll, standard break-in will help you fix that, no problem. The main issue I have, and I don't know if I can show you guys, but let's see if I can get in the right lighting here to kind of show you. It's kind of hard to see, but right here where the extractor is, and on the other side of the extractor, there's some rough machining that can cause the round to kind of hang up as it's going into the chamber area as the gun is ramping, as the projectile, I should say, the bullet is ramping up into the chamber. There's some rough machining in these areas that really could be smoothed out from the factory a little more, causing just the cycling action of the gun to be smoother. And that really starts to take its toll in reliability. When you start porting a gun and you're having to spring it a little lighter and stuff like that, you start seeing issues like that. Now, when it's sprung to factory conditions, it can kind of overcome those rough spots. But when it's like this, you really need it to be smooth. And I think, and this is just a hint for any gun company that's making a gun, the gun, at least if you take 9 out of 10 of the guns off the production line, you should be able to lock the slide back. And I know this is not, I'm not saying this should be the way you handle a gun. I'm saying the gun should work this way. You should be able to put a magazine fully loaded into the gun and drop the slide and kind of guide the bullet in there, and it not like grab and hang and junk like that. I know when you're handling the gun and you're running the gun, not to handle it that way, because you want to prevent hang-ups and stuff. But the gun should cycle around slowly and smoothly into the chamber. And I know that most guns won't, but I think that is a good practice to get your guns, your production guns, to be able to do that. Is going to make them way more reliable in the long run. When they get dirty, it's just going to make them run a lot smoother. When the springs get weak, the gun will still be reliable. So I think it would be good for all gun manufacturers to make sure that their guns are able to cycle when to chamber rounds when the cycling action is slowed down significantly. If the gun can still chamber the round, it just makes them a whole lot more reliable. And really good guns and hand-built guns will usually do that. Where you find the problem is in these more mass-produced guns. Not a major issue. Like I said, the gun worked out of the box, but that's a suggestion for Daniel Defense and for any like striker-fired pistol maker to make sure that your machining work, even though I know the people aren't putting their hands on this personally. These are probably all just machined and coated and all that stuff in mass production. I get that, and I'm fine with that. But make sure your machining is spec to where the gun will run very smooth. Even if the cycling speed is slowed down, it'll still chamber rounds. And this gun was a little rougher than probably most Glocks and most other guns in that sense. So just something they could improve on. Like I said, as long as the gun is sprung to factory conditions, I think most of the guns will work okay. I have seen videos where other people had this issue and other people said the same thing that I found, and I've actually found more little spots that I think are a little rough, and they should be more ramped. You should have places where the brass is coming in contact with the chamber walls and the back of the and the slide where the firing pin is, you know, there should be everything ramped to kind of make that brass want to go up and go into the chamber. You know, it should be like a funnel, just feeding that round where it needs to go, instead of there being rough edges, little spots where there's sharper edges where the brass can catch on. You know, all that needs to be really worked out if you want a gun to be 100% reliable. Every gun to be 100% reliable out of the factory, you would want to do that. So that's just some thoughts. All right, so we have added iron sights. These are cheap iron sights for the P320 or P365 off of Amazon. I would not suggest these. These are way too hard to fit. When I got them finally fitted on, they don't fit quite like I wanted them to, because they were way over spec and had to do a ton of fitting. They look okay now, and I think they're all right, and they actually do co-witness like I wanted. I feel like a gun with a red dot that don't co-witness just looks cheap, and I didn't want to have a gun of this caliber, not caliber, it's not a good word for it, a gun of this kind of price range to have a red dot on it with sights that were useless. It just bothers me. And plus, I've ported it, so I like the front sight to just be an iron sight. And that's what this is. It's not got fiber optics. It looks kind of cheap to me if you got fiber optics that's getting carbon all over it from ports. So I wanted to change that. I just think it looks better. And I may carry this if I can ever get it to running 100% where I feel confident. I'm about 80% confident in this thing right now, but I'd like to be more like 98, 99%, and I don't know that I can say I'm 100% confident in any gun, but I'm pretty close on some guns. But this one I'm about 80%, so if I can get my confidence up on a little bit, I might carry it, but we're just not there yet. So I did open up the mag well a little bit on the front. It was kind of a sharp edge. That's where this is where the magazine wanted to catch the most. And so I kind of opened that up a little bit and put some black on it just to kind of give it a little place where it don't catch quite as bad. That's one of the negatives about the H9. It seems pretty performance in the way it looks and feels in the hand. And the magwell is a little bit short of what's to be desired for something like this, especially if you're wanting this gun to be used in IDPA and stuff like that. But a suggestion for Daniel Defense would be take this spec for this back strap and make a full aluminum back strap that has a small but effective magwell that comes all the way to the front and fills in this gap and comes down maybe not even a quarter of an inch and flares out just a little bit. I think you wouldn't have to take out the magwell very wide. You wouldn't want to widen the gun too much, but just take it a little bit beyond where the grips come out and have a little bit more flare on the sides and have quite a bit more flare in the front and add a little flare to the back. And I think you would have a good selling accessory. So if somebody's watching this and you want to make one, you'll be the first. So yeah, that's a suggestion I have. Although this gun, that accessory probably wouldn't sell thousands and thousands of units, I'm sure it would sell hundreds, and it may be worth it to somebody to try to make something like that. I would probably buy one if it wasn't crazy overpriced. So just a suggestion for Daniel Defense or anybody else in the aftermarket that wants to do that. I think the best way to do it would be just to mill out a back strap and add the magwell as one piece with the back strap. So the trigger's better because it's broke in some, and we've added, we changed the plunger spring, not to nothing, lightweight, just a factory plunger spring from another weapon that actually has plenty of stiffness to it. And so it still should be plenty safe, but it just made the trigger less spongy and bouncy, I should say, and that helped a lot. But if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Just wanted to update you on the Daniel Defense and kind of show you what I've done. We will update you after the match. I'm a little nervous about what's going to happen Saturday when we take this to the match. So keep your eyes tuned for that video if you like the Daniel Defense and you're wanting to know. So let's see how it does. I can't blame, like I said, I can't blame the company for anything because I have poured it and I know that I'm going to have to tune it. But some guns are just harder to tune for ports than they should be. And that's because of the shortcomings and the little, I guess, workarounds they do to make these guns get shipped out at a faster pace and made cheaper than they have to be made in order to, it makes these guns harder to tune. So that's where we're kind of at. So, guys, keep following. You'll find out more about this. I know some people is going to love and some people is going to hate the Daniel Defense H9. I like the company. I'm a Christian channel. I think the owner is a Christian of Daniel Defense. I think he wants to do good things and put out good products, and for the most part he does. But yeah, I mean, I think the Daniel is still mostly there, but I think it's still a little bit of a work in progress before people really start receiving it on the market. And I would like to see that happen. I really want to see it because I really like this gun. And the way it feels and shoots, it's just a lot smaller, guys, when you compare it to a full-size 9mm 1911. I mean, it's quite a bit shorter in the grip. I can't do that exactly on camera, but it's quite a bit shorter in the grip. It's thinner than a single stack with regular grips on it. Thinner, shorter, not as long. And so it's quite a bit smaller than a single stack 1911 and lighter. So it does fit a niche for certain people that like that kind of thing. So yeah, I want to see it successful in the marketplace. God bless. Have a great day. If any questions, leave them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Later.